Hi everyone. In this video, you will learn special uses of relative clauses. Here we are going to focus on a text titled "What is Guerrilla Marketing?" Guerrilla marketing is an advertisement strategy in which a company uses surprise. This strategy uses multiple techniques and practices, all of which concentrate on establishing direct contact with the customers. By creating a memorable experience, it also increases the likelihood that a consumer or someone who interacted with the campaign will tell their friends about the product, which in turn creates buzz about the product. Therefore, a company, the budget of which doesn't have to be huge, can make a lot of profit. Let's now see the examples of special uses of relative clauses. So, in this text, there are 4 special uses of relative clauses, as you can see highlighted in pink. And what makes them so special? Let's see. In the first one, as you can see, we use a preposition before a relative pronoun, in which. In the second one, we use a quantifier, all of which. Or we can use a noun before a relative pronoun. The budget is a noun here. Or we can comment on the sentence back here. Someone who interacted with the campaign. How about this? This is just a defining relative clause. There is nothing special with this. Let's now see some more details and some more examples. The first use is about prepositions. A preposition can come before whom or which. Let's see the examples. The house which Barış Manço used to live in is now a museum. Okay, we use in, on, or at to show place. Okay, we can also write in before which here, and the new sentence looks like this. The second example. He is not the person who or whom you should rely on. Remember, with verbs we can also use prepositions like from, in, of, or about. Okay, in the new sentence, on will be written before whom. I don't write who again. My only option is writing whom here after a preposition. And with adjectives, remember, we also use prepositions like of, in, on, to, or at, etc. Okay? The new sentence would look like this. Let me show you. A natural disaster is something of which people are afraid. And we use in, on, or at to show time. Okay? Here, the preposition in is the preposition of the year. Okay? It is not related to the verb next to it. It is the preposition of the word year. When we use a day, we say on, or when we say hour, we say at. And now I can change the place of the preposition, and my new sentence will look like this. 2010 wasn't the year in which the album was released, I'll say. Let's now take a look at some more examples. I had an aunt from whom I inherited a bit of money. I can also write it this way. I had an aunt who or whom I inherited a bit of money from, but now you know that you can change the place of the preposition and write it before the relative pronoun. The second one. Before you take a job interview, it's a good idea to find out some background information about the people for whom you will be working. And that means whom you will be working for. So you see, for is the preposition of work here, okay? And you can write it before the relative pronoun whom. Let's see another example with an adjective. This is not the type of sport at which I'm good. And that means which I'm good at. It comes because of the adjective good here. And I can write at the beginning of the relative clause before the relative pronoun which. And when we say Turkey took the third place in 2002 World Cup, it was the year in which I was born. Now you know that means which I was born in. Okay, and I can write in before which. If it were month, for example, I would say in which. If it were day, I would say on which. Or if it were hour, I would say at which. And the last example. Stratford-upon-Avon is the town in which Shakespeare lived. Now you know that means which Shakespeare lived in. And we have the option of writing the preposition before the relative pronoun. And here we say in because of the noun town. We say in the town. If it were university, we would say at which, because we say at university. Or if it were website, for example, we say on the website. So we would say website on which. And the final note here for you. When you use that, the preposition always comes at the end. I met the people that I used to work with. I never say I met the people with that I used to work, okay? It is incorrect to say this way, but it is correct to put the preposition at the end. And here you'll see another special use of relative clauses. For example, we can say some of which, we can say many of whom, we can say one of whose, or we can say the best of which. Let's see the examples here. There are soap operas on national TV channels, none of which I find interesting. Of course, that means there are soap operas on TV, I find none of them interesting. But instead of saying this in two separate sentences, I combine them in one sentence using a relative clause here. Now I'll use both with of whom. Let's see. I have two sisters, both of whom work as teachers. That means I have two sisters and both of them work as teachers. Let's now use a number with of which. Let's see. Last winter I read 3 books, one of which was absolutely thrilling. That means last winter I read 3 books and one of them was absolutely thrilling. So I can use one of which again to provide some extra information. Or I can say she has 4 siblings, 2 of whom are abroad. I can say 1, I can say 2 or 3, doesn't matter. It depends on what you want to use. And this again means she has 4 siblings and 2 of them are abroad. And in the last example, we are going to use a superlative adjective with of whose. Let's see. China, the best of whose products are imported, is one of the world's largest economies. You see, we use a superlative adjective, the best here, with of whose. And the meaning is, China is one of the world's largest economies and its best products are imported. So you see that these are all non-defining relative clauses because they provide extra information. Instead of just saying soap operas, which I say soap operas, none of which, or 2 sisters who becomes 2 sisters, both of whom, okay? Or I can talk about numbers, one of which, 2 of whom. I can talk about also the quality of something, the best of whose, I can say. So, because these are non-defining, we don't forget to add commas before and after the relative clause while writing. When it comes to this special use, in a non-defining relative clause, we can use which to refer back to the whole sentence. I guess you'll like this use of which because it's like doing magic. Let's see the examples. Everyone worked very hard and helped me organize, which I hadn't expected at all. You see, there's a full sentence here, and the sentence ends with a verb. Normally, it is not possible to write a relative pronoun after a verb, but here is the magic. We can combine these two sentences by just adding a comma and which in between, and we can refer back to the sentence here. And this means everyone worked very hard and helped me organize. I hadn't expected this at all. This refers to the first sentence here. Or for example, we can also say a sentence like this: people burn coal, cut down forests, and keep on livestock farming, which causes climate change. Here we see another example of using which to refer back to the whole sentence, and that means people burn coal, cut down forests, and keep on livestock farming, and it causes climate change. Here you see we can also follow with a verb after which, okay? In the first example, there was another subject, I, which I hadn't, we said, and here we can say which causes, because we can form a cause and effect relationship here, okay? The causes, people burn coal, and the effect is it causes climate change. Or using which here, we can also give our opinion, as in the example here. Andy gave his seat to an old woman, which was so kind of him. Here I'm adding my opinion using which here, because this means Andy gave his seat to an old woman, and that was so kind of him, in my opinion. Please note this, the antecedent of which is always singular. I mean, the part coming before which, the sentence coming before which is always singular. That's why we say causes or was, or if it were in present simple form, we would say which is. A note for spoken English. In this note, you will see that we can also use a which clause to evaluate or give an opinion on something the first speaker has said. Let's see the example. Speaker 1 says, I'll pick you up at 7:30 tomorrow. And the second speaker says, which is good, because my first lesson is at 8:30. Here we see that which is good is used because the second speaker is evaluating the fact that being picked up at 7:30 is good. In this last special use of relative clauses, you will see that we can use noun plus of whom or which instead of saying whose. This is the singer, the name of whom I cannot remember. So you see, the name is the noun here, and we can combine it with of whom. And that means this is the singer whose name I cannot remember. And now we'll see an example for noun plus of which. We will establish a new system, the first aim of which will be to reduce costs. Instead of using whose, we use the noun here and combined it with the relative pronoun which using of. And this means we'll establish a new system whose first aim will be to reduce costs. And a note for you here, these are also non-defining relative clauses, so please don't forget to add a comma before and after the relative clause when needed. In this exercise, we will combine two sentences given to us and we will use special uses of relative clauses. And you know that if you want to make a guess, you can stop the video. So, getting started with the first one. Last night there was an accident. Its cause is still being investigated. There was an accident. Its cause. Okay. So, normally we would say there was an accident whose cause. But here we are going to make use of a special use of the relative clause. And we will say, last night there was an accident, the cause of which is still being investigated. The second one. The USA has 50 states. The largest of them is Alaska. So we say the largest. We use a superlative here. Remember the rule. What can we say here? The USA has 50 states, the largest of which is Alaska. Moving on with the third one. The main building of ITU's Machka campus was once used as an armory. Its architect was Sarkis Balyan. We say its architect. So, whose architect is this? The main building of ITU's Machka campus. So, I will start my relative clause here. Let's see the answer. The main building of ITU's Machka campus, the architect of which was Sarkis Balyan. Okay, because it's a non-defining relative clause, I write my relative clause in between two commas. The next one. Mr. Dawson is very interested in our proposal. I spoke to him at the meeting. I spoke to Mr. Dawson. So, I will start my relative clause after Mr. Dawson, after mentioning him, and I will combine this sentence starting here. And here we should also note that there is a preposition. Let's see the answer. Mr. Dawson, to whom I spoke at the meeting, is very interested in our proposal. Moving on with number 5. Fortunately, we have a good map. We may get lost without it. Without a map. So, after mentioning the map, I will start my relative clause here. And the answer will look like this. Fortunately, we have a good map, without which we may get lost. And you see, this is a defining relative clause. There is no comma needed here because we are just changing the place of the preposition. At this point, you can ask, teacher, this is also a preposition. We just changed the place of the preposition. Why is that non-defining and why is this defining? It is non-defining because of Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dawson is a person I know, okay? I know the surname of that person. That's why I'm writing the relative clause in between two commas. Another example here. I was asked questions. I could answer none of them. So, none of the questions I could answer. I will start my relative clause here. Ready to see the answer? I was asked questions, none of which I could answer. And the last one. You should feel the sun on your face. It will make you feel better. Okay. Here, what will make you feel better? The whole situation here. So remember, how can we comment or give an opinion on the whole situation? Let's see the answer. You should feel the sun on your face, which will make you feel better. By using a comma and which, remember, we can give an opinion about the whole situation back here. We can refer back here. This is the end of the lesson today. Let's now see what you have learned.